Hello everyone, delighted to be joined by England and Exeter rugby player Jack Nowell. To give you a bit of an insight into the purpose of these meetings, we wanted to bridge the gap almost between the followers of both Nutrition X and also the ambassadors that we're currently working with, and use this as an opportunity really to find out a little bit more about them, give you an insight into their life, into their sporting background, and like I say, just use this as an opportunity to really get to know who we're working with. We've got a great bunch of ambassadors on board. We're delighted with who we're working with. So we feel as though it's right for you to know a little bit more about them. So firstly, to introduce Jack to the first of this edition. So thank you for joining us.
No worries at all, mate. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
So just to kickstart off, really, we've got a couple of questions that we've outlined as what we feel as though people would want to know about you, but more than happy to sort of see where this conversation goes and have a discussion.
Me, mate.
Exactly, let it free roll and say where it is. But to start with, give us a little bit of an insight. How's the injury getting on?
I'm not doing too badly, mate. I would like to be back playing and be fit by now, if I'm honest. But that's kind of just the way I am. I think I can take off 2 weeks off any injury. But I'm not too far away now. I think I had my operation 14 weeks ago now. So it literally feels like half a season, whatever. But it's not been too long. But no, I'm itching to get back. I've started running on the field and stuff. But I'm almost at the last hurdle now, just before I get back into full training. And obviously after full training is obviously match stuff. So I feel fit, I feel strong. But yeah, like I said, I just got a little bit more to work on.
Yeah, and obviously with it being pivotal time with Six Nations, just missed out on obviously being involved with the injury.
Yeah, no, definitely. A big goal of mine was to try and be fit for the start of Six Nations, but being realistic and after speaking with surgeons and stuff, it's because it's my foot. It's one you can't rush, and it's one you've almost got to pay close attention to, because at the end of the day, we run on our feet, we do all sorts on our feet. Like, I've kind of got to take this one steady. But for me, still, I still want to play a part in the Six Nations. So again, hopefully, I can get a bit of game time in for Exeter, and almost pick up where I carried on from last season. So then hopefully I can get a bit of a call up maybe towards the end. But the first things first is I'm going to try and make myself fit and as strong as possible. To come back in a good place for that, whether it's for Exeter or England.
Yeah, no, makes sense. How did it come about? How did the injury occur?
It's a bit of like a really, really freak incident, to be honest. It was the last 10 minutes against Toulouse in our semi-final of the Heineken Cup. Like I said, freak incident. I went to push off, so you can imagine your foot and your toe is on the floor, almost like in a tiptoe position. And as I've gone to push off to almost power into contact, I've been hit from above at the exact same time. And obviously something's got to give. And unfortunately for me, it was my foot. So I kind of ruptured all the ligaments that goes from, around underneath my toe into my foot. At first, I thought I'd snap my boot. Because that's almost what it felt like. It felt like the bottom of my boot was under a lot of pressure, so it almost snapped because there's plastic underneath football boots and rugby boots now.
Yeah.
So I looked across to the physio. I was a bit like, I've broken my boot. What should I do? Can you strap it up for me? And as I hit the floor and had a look at my boot, there was nothing wrong with my boot, and straight away they knew that it was probably my tendons and my ligaments under my foot. So it was, like I said, it was a bit of a freak one, but at the end of the day, it's kind of what we do. And those things happen, and you've just got to kind of get on with it, I think.
Yeah, from the mental side of things, how's it been? Like you said at the start, then it's never nice to miss games, and no one wants to be injured for any extended period of time. So how's it been in that sense, trying to mentally prepare to getting back? Obviously, you've had the Six Nations as a good point to focus on, but how have you find it in that sense?
Yeah, I think I've learned a lot over my time playing. I've been injured a lot. I've had quite a few injuries. This was my 9th operation now. So I've gone through a few stages. I think what I really struggled with the most is the fact that I did it in a semi-final of the Heineken Cup. The next games we had coming up was a final of a Premiership and a final of a Heineken Cup. A semi-final of the Premiership, a final of the Premiership, and a final of a Heineken Cup. So 3 massive games, and I was thinking, do you know what? I've played all season. We're right at this last hurdle now, where the big games are happening. And these games are coming up with why we play rugby. And I've almost put myself out of selection now because I'm injured. So the first week and say, don't get me wrong, it was pretty dark. I was like, that's it. I'm not going to. Rugby players go through the whole career not getting to any finals, not getting to a Heineken Cup final or a Prem final. So I was a bit like, this could be my one chance to do it, and I've only gone and got injured in the semi-final. But after speaking with the physios and the surgeons and our doctors and stuff, they're a bit like, the damage is done in your foot. If you can get through the pain of it and grit your teeth a little bit, there's no reason why you can't play. So we actually had a week off then, and in our semi-final, so I had 2 weeks to rehab it and try and make my foot as strong as I can. Obviously, I relied a lot on tape as well.
Yeah.
But like, to get through those 2 games in the season, I was so relieved. One, we obviously won them, which was massive, and probably for me that was the highlight of my career so far. But 2, I could actually, I was involved in that game, and I got through that rehab block, and obviously the surgery was waiting for me after. So for me, I kind of hit that goal and achieved what I achieved. So obviously now is a bit of a race to get back for Six Nations and stuff. But I'm really happy that I was able to play those 2 games in the first place.
Yeah. Well, probably a difficult question here, and I'm more than likely asking you to choose between either of your kids. But which one of those cup games was the better for you? Which one is it stands?
I think for me, what was a bit more special was probably the Heineken Cup game. We won the Premiership before, not saying it's taken anything away from it.
Yeah.
But I think, like I said before, a lot of teams, a lot of players I know and have played with, have played their whole careers without even getting to a semi-final of a Heineken Cup, let alone a final, and let alone winning a final.
Yeah.
So obviously, with the amount of excuses we could have made during the year, obviously with COVID and no fans being there, and the bit of a messed up season we had, to come through the other end of that and to obviously not let that affect us and come through and win that game. For me, that was definitely by far the best game that I've been involved in and played in.
Yeah, you touched on it a little bit there in terms of COVID. Obviously, it's had a massive impact on everyone, obviously worldwide. How have you found it personally? Obviously, with family life and but then also with rugby and how have the team adapted to sort of training methods or whatever it may be?
I think personally, I was obviously lucky enough to obviously be working with you guys. I work very closely with Red Bull as well. So I had a home gym. I was in the middle of making a home gym, and then that kind of sped things along a bit with Red Bull. So I had a lot of stuff sent down. And obviously it was summer. The sun was out. So, there was a lot going on, but I tried to make a big positive out of it. I spent a lot of time with my family, did a bit of training just to, in the gym. So the first little bit was fine. Like, I got on with that, enjoyed it, and enjoyed the fact we could actually come back. So from a team point of view, we all came back in pretty good shape, and I think you could tell that from our games when we were back. We seemed to be a lot better than other teams. We were winning all our games, and obviously we went on to win those 2 finals as well. So I think we coped with it very well, but that was last season. I think this season is very, very different now. There's a lot more rules in place. I'm sure a lot of people have seen on the TV in past. There's no celebration, scoring tries or anything.
Yeah.
There's no handshakes after the game with some of your mates that you played against that game.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more stuff that's coming in place now, which is difficult, and we are very lucky to still be playing, we still be training, we're still doing our jobs. So we're one of the lucky ones, and obviously what's going on. But there are a few challenges that are in place. But I suppose the guys that are going to come out top are the guys that can deal with that, and not really let that affect them, to be honest.
Yeah, and obviously with everyone's in the same boat in terms of fans not being in the stadium, and part of the reason obviously we wanted to do this is, like I say, bridge that gap for fans to still be connected with players and obviously their favourite teams. I'm presuming obviously that must have been hard in terms of going from a packed stadium to no one there at all.
Yeah, it was. It's some guys can get on with it, but for me, I do really enjoy playing in front of crowds. It's kind of why you do it when you're a kid. And obviously to go from, a packed out Sandy Park where we have, 13, 14,000 at home games, to have that to then have no one is a bit weird. It's weird hearing the opposition, because you can hear everything they're saying. You can hear everything the coaches are saying up in the stand. So it is strange. But we are very much looking forward to everyone getting back in, and hopefully very soon there will be fans back in, because it's not just only the fans that are in there, but obviously our families and stuff can't come as well. So one of the main reasons I play is for my family, and to know they're in the stand watching is always very special. So it is tough, and just I couldn't imagine what that Heineken Cup final last year would have been at Bristol if that was packed out with Chiefs fans in there, and rugby fans in general in there, because it would have been an amazing experience. But hopefully we can get there again, with fans involved as well.
Yeah, I mean, I remember texting you obviously before that game. There was a lot of my mates who were Chiefs fans that were itching to be there, and obviously I think it sort of it made it easier for them, the fact that you guys obviously did go on and win. So you certainly made a couple of my mates very happy those 2 evenings, obviously after those finals. So yeah, I think everyone's in the same boat, aren't they? They want to get back to supporting and being in and moving it forward that way. But if we go right back to the start, so how did you first get into rugby? What were your first sort of memories of playing, and at what sort of age were you when it all started for you?
I was real young. I was 4. I joined the Penzance and England Pirates under 5s. If I'm honest, I hated it. I had a lot of energy when I was a kid. So Mum thought, to try and target my energy and my frustration, I'll take you down to rugby. None of my family really played rugby. My old man's a fisherman, but it's kind of a big part of Cornwall, local rugby. So she took me down there, see if I wanted to join in and give it a go. I hated it, stood by a leg, cried for the first month, refused to join in. But it took me a while to get in there. But I always wanted to go down there. I always wanted to be part of it. But then as soon as I started to get know the boys, I became really good friends with them. That was it. Then I kind of took off from there. Played all my mini and junior stuff till I was about 16 at Penzance and England Pirates, and then joined Truro College, where I picked up a contract with Exeter. Exeter put me on loan to Red Roof when I was 16. Then I actually moved to Exeter when I was 18. So it was a pretty surreal roller coaster. But the last 10 years now have flown by for me. So but from when I was younger, it all started from the age of 4 down at my local rugby club.
Yeah, and I'm just going to you touched on it basically with Cornwall being such a big rugby sort of rugby place, and obviously Nutrition X being based in Gloucester, then it's a similar sort of feeling here. And for me personally, I'm from a football background, more so from rugby. So it's when I first moved to this sort of area, it was strange having that feel, because obviously football is more sort of dominant across the UK, I would say. But how was it in Cornwall growing up, with it being so rugby orientated?
Yeah, I think you're completely opposite to what you pretty much said there. I think, like you said, you got a bit of a taste of it, moved down to the southwest, down to Gloucester. But it is even more so down there, because we don't have any football teams really. We've got the old local teams dotted around that play their local league, but no real serious team. I think probably the closest team to us is maybe Plymouth, which is 2 hours up the road. So it was literally rugby, and I remember we had teams like Red Roof, Launceston, which were the Cornish All Blacks. We had Mounts Bay, we had the Cornish Pirates. So these were teams that were in high leagues. The Pirates were in Championship, then National One, and a few dotted down between. But I suppose it wasn't the leagues that the teams were in. It was more the amount of fans and the amount of support that each team had. I remember just as a kid going down to watch Mounts Bay play their games. You'd have 2,000-3,000 in the state in the ground sometimes, and it was it was surreal. So that's kind of where I wanted to try and set my stage going up and growing up, and obviously lucky enough now to move out of Cornwall, but to move to Exeter, which is a Premiership side, because we've never had a Premiership side down here before. The closest was Bath, Bristol. But to have one so far down in the southwest now is pretty cool, and obviously helped me out very much.
Yeah, and then obviously England came calling. So how was it? How were your emotions on that first call up to England?
Again, I was a kid. I was 19, 20, I think. So like now I look at 19, 20-year-olds, and it's a bit different nowadays. Like I was playing for Exeter when I was 18, and but I suppose that's just kind of the crop of the lads that I grew up with and played with, and we're kind of all still playing now. So it's a lot harder to break into those teams when you are younger. But the fact I was young, I probably didn't think about it too much, which I'm really thankful for, because if I thought too much about it, I would have probably panicked and done stuff that I wouldn't normally do. but the fact you are so young, you're naive, and I kind of just treated it as another game of rugby. I'm still kind of doing that now, which is the best thing about it. So maybe when I'm a bit older, I can have a little think about it. But because I'm still involved and I'm still doing it, I think the best way is not to think about it too much and just kind of treat it as another game of rugby. But obviously for me, to play for your country is, if I'm honest, it wasn't something I set my goals at. I didn't start playing rugby to say I want to play for my country.
Yeah.
Because stuff like that doesn't really happen unless you're like really, really good and you excel in it. So I was just like, do you know what? I want to have fun and play with my mates, and if it happens, it happens. So to actually get there and to have done that now is pretty cool, and pretty special to know I've got that.
Yeah, certainly want to look back on and have the conversation with the kids when they're older and grandkids, isn't it?
Maybe. I don't know. I've got 2 girls at the moment, and like I said, I don't come from a big rugby family. So like the most I get when I get home is, how's rugby going? Yeah, it's all right, and that's pretty much it. So it's quite cool, to be honest.
Yeah. So out of all of the stadiums, you can pick one stadium to play at. What's been the best? What's been the most memorable for you?
I think probably playing in France was my first, obviously, England game. In Paris, that was 90-odd thousand people and 88,000 people in there. That was my first proper, like, this is a big stadium moment. So that's one I would always remember. I think when you play in Italy, the fans are always behind their team. The singing and the atmosphere is class. And obviously, Twickenham's up there as well. Playing a big Wales-Ireland game, England, Wales, England, Ireland, packed out Twickenham it don't get much better than that either. So, anywhere there's a bit of atmosphere, I think is pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to a bit of nutrition and food-based stuff. Obviously, I think anyone that's following you on Instagram can see you're a bit of a fan of a barbecue. What's your favourite thing to cook up on the grill?
Oh mate, I'm into anything. I actually really got into barbecuing in lockdown. So everyone's picked up new skills and stuff or new hobbies. Mine was barbecue, and obviously the weather made me want to go outside a lot.
Yeah.
But I toyed around with gas barbecues or charcoal barbecues. I was convinced for a charcoal barbecue. I got a Kamado, and just the fact that it's the coal, and it honestly changes the taste of any food for the better. So I'm into my steaks. I only really eat steak on a barbecue now, but like anything really, chicken thighs, chicken wings. I cook most of the food out there now, even in the winter. I'm a big fan of a breakfast on a barbecue as well, which sounds pretty weird. But yeah, I'm a big fan of like waffles and stuff, and I put them on the grill. Bacon, anything like that, eggs is. And when you're out there cooking, it kind of makes you feel a bit more hungry about it as well. So
yeah. So for the Nutrition Next summer party, then we know where we're heading.
100%. I can make some protein pancakes. And give me a call.
Yeah, perfect. We'll bring some stuff down with us, and we can get some stuff cooking. So how important is food for you? Obviously, intake for rugby. We're fortunate enough to be working obviously with some top nutritionists, and obviously Graham Close, who's obviously with the England setup as well, who you know and whatnot. We're privileged to have him on board with us in what he's doing in capacity with his role. So how important is it for you from a rugby perspective?
Yeah, I think it's massive. I think it's actually probably one of the most important things now, alongside recovery. Like before, it was all about training, all about playing, and as long as you're doing that well, you're okay. Whereas obviously it's still massively about that, but what can actually make you better is your diet, your food, your supplements you take. So like you said, with Closey, and obviously we've worked very closely with him in England, and he changed our whole menu. He made it very very much so it's an individual thing, so everyone's slightly different. So at the end of it, like, you can't just go, props can't eat the same as what I eat, or the quantity or the amount. Some can eat more, some can eat less. But I think it's very important. Like I said, it was massively important for recovery. Your mental state, I think, is big as well. Like, you could have weeks and weeks of eating well, but at the end of the day, you need a bit of a cheat meal, and you need to enjoy yourself, because it can make you feel so much better. So like for me personally, I always leave that till after a game, or after a hard session on a Saturday or something. That's when I'll kind of get that meal in. But like, and it can make you, it makes you so much better as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, in terms of recovery, it can make you go again the next day. Any little thing as well. For me, I'm not a big eater. So in terms of supplements and stuff like that, it's so much easier just to bang a shake in when you can, especially having now 2 kids.
Yeah.
But then there's obviously the other side of it as well. Like obviously for me, you guys know, probably one of my favorite supplements is the collagen shots as well. Again, that's kind of recovery, muscle recovery as well. But I have such bad tendons and ligaments. That's what I always seem to snap. If you're banging these collagen shots in, it's only going to make you better as well. It's sometimes only the little 5-10%ers that make a massive difference. So, to have people like yourselves and Closey and all working alongside us, it's only going to make us better.
And what would you say your go-to meal? Obviously, working closely, sometimes I'm presuming that then gets taken out of your hands, especially in camp before a game. But if you're picking a meal before a game, what are you normally going for?
I always try and keep the same as what I can have at home, what I have away, because then it's fresh in your mind. You know what you're doing. So I always go for chicken fajitas.
Yeah.
I actually live next door to one of my teammates, Jack Nowell, as well. So he quite often comes over on a Friday night. We'll cook up about, I think, 15 chicken breasts between us two and our two partners. So they probably have about 2 fajitas each, whereas me and him are smashing in a good 5 or 6. So we always have a big meal the night before, and we always make it a bit of a thing as well, because the night before a game, the nerves can set in and stuff like that. You start thinking about the game, but to make it a bit more chilled, we always do something together. And it's the same very much if I'm in a hotel. There's always different options when you are away of England, or if you're away of Exeter in a hotel. There'll always be chicken fajitas on the menu. So that's something I always try and stick to and make it a bit of a tradition now.
Yeah, you mentioned obviously the repair shots there as well. What sort of other supplements for people that may not necessarily have an understanding of what supplements someone like yourself would need? What would you say your sort of go-to is, and why would you use them?
So for me, I'm always at least minimum two shakes a day. Obviously we've got our nighttime stuff that we have. I'd always have it with creatine, and then we've just got our normal proteins as well that I'll have after training or a gym session and stuff like that. So they're you're given that you'd always have. Most rugby players would always have that. The nighttime shakes, the caseins and stuff like that, I'd have that because it helps me not put weight on, but keep my weight on.
Yeah.
That's obviously, for guys that don't know, is like a slow release protein. And you lose a lot of weight during the night, which is a good thing for some people. But for me, I always, like I said, obviously need to keep my weight. So that's like a slow releasing protein that I can use during the night. So they're my 2 definites. The repair shots, like I said, not only for my muscles, but for my ligaments and stuff like that, is obviously very good.
Yeah, and then looking ahead, obviously, I had a fantastic career within rugby already, but looking ahead, so retirement comes around, and what's then the future holding for you at that point? Have you got any plans in place, or?
It's a tough one. I've not got anything in place at the moment. A big thing I want to do is move back down to Cornwall.
Yeah.
I'd like to move back down to where I grew up, just because the way of life down there is something I've missed massively. Obviously, I've missed my summers down there. Our beaches down there are beautiful.
Yeah.
So I'm very much so looking forward to moving back down there. In terms of my rugby stuff, a lot of people say, do you want to go into punditry? Do you want to go into coaching? But if I'm perfectly honest, if once I'm finished my rugby career, I don't think I could hang around, if you get me.
Yeah.
Obviously, some people are desperate to be a coach and that's what they love. But for me, to be so close to the game and so close to the players, but not have that enjoyment of being out on the field, because that's what I love the most, is being out on the field and playing and winning. I don't think I'd get that same involvement, same enjoyment being a coach. So I kind of think once I'm done with rugby, I'm done. And I would love to try something else, because at the end of the day, we're still going to be young. Hopefully I'll be late 30s still playing, but hopefully I'm touch wood, my body's in a good condition still. But I'd love to try something completely different and almost start another life again.
Yeah, well, I mean, your pitch for our products was pretty good, so I'm sure we can always open up something for you here if needs be.
That's one thing I will be doing. I will be staying in the gym, and I will be looking after my body. So I might have to take you up on that one.
Yeah. What sort of advice would you give to with Nutrition X? Obviously, it's all about grassroots level, as well as obviously looking after the elite performers like yourself. So what advice would you, I suppose, give yourself when you were first starting out, or someone that was really looking to embark on a rugby career now? What bit of advice would you give them?
I always say, and it's something I've always tried to live by as well. If you're not having fun, there's probably no point doing it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I get asked so many times from people's parents, and my son wants to be a professional rugby player like you guys. Like, what can I be doing to help him? What can he be doing? And I just think there's no point stressing about it. Like, my little brother's probably in the same position at the moment. He's coming up through. He would like to be a professional rugby player, but you can't put pressure on it. Like, it might happen, it might not. But as long as you're having fun, as long as you're trying your hardest, that's all that matters. You know, there's not many rugby players at the moment that aren't enjoying what they're doing. Because the main thing is, I know it's easy to say that we're playing rugby, we're getting paid for it. Of course, you're going to enjoy it, but it's before that as well. Like the grassroots stuff. Like I never enjoyed playing rugby, like I said, so I didn't do it until I started enjoying it and I started loving it. That's when I started playing, and that's the reason I played. I never had any stress put on me by my parents or anything. It was just the fact that I love being with my best mates and I love playing rugby, and that was kind of just the way it was. So I think as long as you're trying your hardest, you're giving your all, you're having fun. You know, you can't go wrong from that, to be honest.
Yeah. No, I think it's a sound bit of advice for anyone, because, like you say, I think everyone that's seen you play, everyone that knows a little bit about you, and hopefully, obviously, if people have watched this and they can have a bit of an insight, then that's certainly something they'll be able to take away from that unless you're enjoying it, that there is no point, life's too short. So make the most of what you've got with doing it. So I think that's a perfect way for us to end this one, and I think it was just from myself and obviously for everyone that was watching, a massive thank you, obviously, like I said at the start, for jumping on board and giving us an insight into a little bit more about yourself, and hopefully we can do this again soon at some point, and I'm sure we'll definitely be holding you to the barbecue in the summer.
Definitely, mate. We'll do another one when I'm back fit and I'm playing again, because it'll be a lot easier to talk about rugby then. But yeah, the barbecue is definitely up for we'll make a date and we'll get something sorted.
Yeah, perfect. Well, I mean, obviously don't want to preempt what's going to happen, but like you say, if you manage to get some involvement with the Six Nations and England do what we hope that you can, I obviously can say that as an Englishman, then we'll come back on and do another one.
Perfect, mate. No worries. Thanks very much.
Cheers. Thanks, Jack.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.